How's it going, everyone? I'm Landan with LMR.com. In this video, we're going to be explaining the process of installing Acme upholstery into a Fox Body Mustang. Let's get right into it. So the car we're going to be working on today is Kelly's 1989 Mustang GT. She's wanting to convert to black interior, so we're going to help her get a nice head start by installing some black cloth upholstery from Acme. While we had the seats out, we're also going to install some black carpet for her, so you'll see that in the after shots. Since we're working on an 89 hatchback with sport seats, some of the steps may differ from other seat assemblies found in Fox Mustangs. Rest assured though, the processes and techniques shown in this video will still help those of you that are doing this job on a different style seat, or you own a coupe or convertible. We've already removed the factory upholstery and the front seat foam from the seat frames, so if you would like to see that process, check out the link in the video description. Now, installing upholstery isn't very difficult, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's pretty damn time consuming. By far, the front seats are more difficult than the rear, and if you feel like this is something that isn't for you, get in touch with your local upholstery shop and have them install it for you. Along with the new upholstery, I'm gonna be installing new front seat foam, because just about every car could benefit from some new foam, especially if it's still original. Be sure and check out the description for a list of tools that I use and any parts that are going to be featured in this video. I'm going to start with the rear seat bottom. Go ahead and place it on your workbench. Place the new upholstery over the foam. Roll the corners over the foam and work the upholstery so that it's even. Flip the seat bottom over. Load a hog ring into the pliers. Starting in the center and at the front of the foam, locate the marks from the existing hog rings. Pull the upholstery into position and install a hog ring around the listing rod and into the metal bracket in the foam. From the center, work your way out until you reach the corners. Whenever you reach the corner, cut away the excess piping. Pull the upholstery around the corner and continue installing hog rings. Just make sure you locate the holes in the bracket through the foam. Once you work down one of the sides, jump over to the opposite side and repeat the same steps. It's in your best interest to work evenly when installing upholstery. Now you can work down the rear of the foam. Whenever you get to the recessed areas, make sure you pull and tuck the upholstery so that it installs cleanly. If it's needed, feel free to install more hog rings than what the factory did. That completes the rear seat bottom upholstery. Since we're working with an 89 hatchback, the steps in this video will cover 1984 to 1993 hatchback Fox Mustangs. If you own a 1979 to 1983 hatchback, 1979 to 1993 coupe, or a 1983 to 1993 convertible, the rear seat upper upholstery steps are very similar to the seat bottom. Position one of the new rear seat back carpet pieces on the workbench. These are usually not size specific, but it never hurts to reference the old upholstery first just to make sure. Place the old carpet on top of the new one and align the bottoms. Depending on the color of the material, use a suitable marker and trace the opening for the seat back release mechanism. First, you'll cut down the center of the marked area, and then you can cut along the inside of the mark with a razor blade or a good pair of scissors. Position one of the rear upper seat backs on the workbench. Locate the two screw holes at the bottom of the seat back. Sometimes these aren't evenly spaced and can drive people crazy. If that's the case, you can install the carpet retaining screws symmetrically if you'd like. Set the carpet on top of the seat back and align the cutout with the release mechanism. I'm installing one of the screws into an existing hole and then using a tape measure to see where I need to place the other one. Whenever I had my measurement, I installed the second screw. Flip the assembly over. On either side of the carpet, lift the foam and tuck the welt underneath the foam. Install a few staples to hold this in place. Cut the remaining slack and then install another staple for good measure. Do the same for the other side. Flip the assembly back over and make sure the carpet is flat against the seat back. On either side, tuck the carpet and make sure it's snug. Use a poking device to locate the first push pin hole. Install a staple. Find the next hole and then install another staple in between the middle of the two holes. Do this until you reach the top and then do the same for the other side. Once you reach the corner, reference the factory seat carpet and then cut 2 relief cuts in the new carpet. Roll the carpet over and install a staple. Move to the top section of carpet and install another staple. Finally, you can roll the center section of carpet from the relief over the seat back and then secure it with a staple. If there happens to be some overhang, install a few more staples to the carpet that is situated between the foam and seat back. Repeat these steps for the other corner. Now you can work your way across the top, repeating the same processes as before. Scan over the carpet and install additional staples where you see fit. If the foam feels loose, tap the existing staples down with a pair of pliers or your cutters, whichever tool works best. Next, locate the correct rear seat back upholstery for the side you're working on. The rear seat backs are side specific. The small section in the upholstery is positioned toward the center of the car, and the larger section gets positioned towards the outside. You'll notice this on the foam as well, since the side bolsters have different widths. Place the upholstery over the foam. The Acme upholstery already has pre-installed listing rods, so there is no need to transfer the factory rods. Starting with the upper horizontal listing rod, install a hog ring in the center, followed by 2 more on the outside. Do this for the 2 vertical listing rods as well. Now you can roll the upholstery over the corners. At the bottom of the seat back, roll the plastic sheathing all the way out. Then you'll want to roll it once and install the push pins so that the stems are facing out. Depending on the material, you may have to make a small incision for the push pin to pass through. Whenever you roll the sheathing over, this will create a blind seam. Go ahead and roll the sheathing and fully install all of the push pins. If needed, you may need to fully seat the push pins with a dead blow. Just make sure you don't damage or scar the material. Repeat these same steps for the perimeter of the seat back. Grease the seat back release slider mechanism with some all-purpose sprayable grease. Be sure to work the grease into place by moving the slider back and forth a few times. Reinstall the seat back release trim and tighten the retaining screws. Reinstall the handle and tighten the screw. I installed a new trim piece and handle, which are both available on our site. Now that we're finished with the seat back, go ahead and remove the 2 screws securing the carpet. We'll need these out of the way whenever we go to reinstall the assembly back into the car. Go ahead and repeat these steps for the other seat back, and then that completes the rear seats. Moving to the front seats now. Put some paper or drop cloth on your workbench. Place one of the knee bolster plates from the foam kit on the bench. Remove the retaining hardware. Wipe the top side of the plate with a prep spray. Test fit the plate to the foam first and make sure it's oriented properly. Whenever that's verified, read the instructions on the spray adhesive designed for headliners and upholstery. Shake the can and spray both the plate and the foam. Per the instructions on the can, I applied a second coat of adhesive. Repeat these steps for the other plate and foam and allow adequate cure time before assembly. Whenever the recommended time has elapsed, install the foam onto the plate. You'll want to get this right the first time because there is no going back after these two make contact with each other. Next, let's move to the headrest. These are not site specific, but they do install a certain way. Match the orientation of the headrest upholstery with the profile of the headrest. Whenever this is verified, place a trash bag over the headrest. You'll want to squeeze the foam so that the upholstery can slide over it. Once it's all the way over the foam, tear off the trash bag. Tuck the pieces of fabric and then stretch the upholstery to attach the Velcro. Do the same for the other headrest. Place one of the lower seat frames on the workbench. Vacuum up and blow out any dirt, debris, or leftover foam from the frame. If needed, take this opportunity to replace the roll spring and the helical springs. You can check out our dedicated video on those components in the description. The new foams have a hole for the adjustable side bolsters, so locate the correct one for the corresponding side that you're working on and then install it onto the frame. Mark the area for the power lumbar switch if equipped. Cut the marked area with a razor blade. Locate the correct seat bottom upholstery for the corresponding side that you're working on. You can differentiate the driver and passenger sides by looking at the rear of the upholstery. One side of the upholstery will already be pre-cut so that it clears the 2 holes for the lower hinge plate. Once the correct side is verified, lay the upholstery over the foam upside down and reinstall the forward listing rods into the listing rod loops. Reference the factory foam and mark the new foam for the power lumbar supply tube. Make a hole in the foam and then feed the supply tube through the foam. Align the center listing rod with the new foam and install 3 hog rings starting in the center and working out. Go ahead and work the upholstery over the bolsters. From the side of the foam, reach inside and situate the upholstery as needed. Work your way around the perimeter, stretching and pulling the upholstery into position. Flip the assembly over and install the rearward clip. Flip it back over and locate where the lumbar supply tube exits the foam. Use a poking device and puncture the seat material. Release the clip and then pass the tube through the upholstery. Roll the upholstery back over the bolsters and locate the rearward metal loop at the rear of the foam. This is where the long listing rod will get positioned. Push the listing rod down and then slide it into the metal loop. At the front of the seat, install at least 2 hog rings to properly secure the listing rod to the frame. Do the same for the other listing rod. Now you can go ahead and roll the upholstery back over the bolsters. Flip the assembly upside down and install the clip over the bottom of the frame that shares the same side as the power lumbar switch and bolster adjustment knob. Mark the areas that need to be cut. Before cutting, reference the old upholstery first, that way you have an idea of how large the openings need to be. I always start small and then enlarge the area as needed. Use a sharp razor blade and cut incisions that mimic the factory upholstery. I went ahead and cleaned up the power lumbar bezel and faceplate with some all-purpose cleaner since these are currently not available new. Position the bezel into place in the correct orientation and reinstall the switch. Remember, the switch attaches to the bezel with 2 spring clips. You'll hear it click into place. Align the bezel with the screw holes in the frame and reinstall the screws. Carefully tighten these down. Reinstall the faceplate in the correct orientation. I chose to install new bolster adjustment knobs, which are currently available from LMR.com. Before installing the new ones, I noticed that the insert from the factory knob stayed in place and needed to be removed. If this happens to you, carefully pry the old sleeve off of the shaft with a small pry bar and dead blow. Be sure you don't damage or scar your new upholstery. Clean the shaft and then remove the set screw from the knob. It doesn't hurt to apply a dab of blue thread locking compound to the threads. Reinstall the set screw and slide the adjustment knob onto the shaft. Align the set screw with the hole in the shaft and then run it down until it stops. At the front of the seat frame, cut the excess piping on both sides. Pull the clip over the seat frame and snap it into place. Do the same for the other 2 side clips and the rearward clip. Reference the old upholstery and place the metal frame for the knee bolster in front of the seat. Mark each area and cut provisions in the new upholstery that is similar in size to the old upholstery. Now that the adhesive on the knee bolster foam has cured, it's time to assemble those. Place the knee bolster foam into a trash bag and install the new upholstery over the foam in the correct orientation. Remove the excess trash bag. Roll the upholstery over the plastic frame and install a staple in the center. On the same side, install another staple. Move to the other side of the frame and install 3 staples. Now you can begin working the corners. Tuck the corners and pull the upholstery towards the center of the frame. Install 3 staples. Go ahead and do the same for the other corner. After that, I went around the perimeter of the bolster and installed staples in between each seam. Use a razor blade and remove the material that's covering the threaded studs. Do this for all 4 locations. Clean the plastic bezel and the metal frame. Slide the bezel over the metal frame in the correct orientation. Position the knee bolster over the metal frame and loosely start all 4 bolts. Carefully tighten all of the bolts. Flip the lower seat assembly over and apply some all-purpose grease to the plastic guides for the knee bolster track. Go ahead and reinstall the knee bolster, followed by the roll pins. On the inward portion of the seat bottom, locate the hole for the pivot bolt. Poke the hole and enlarge it as needed. Now we can switch gears to the front seat back. I would first look over the seat back frame. These typically develop what everyone knows as the gangster lean. What happens is the 2 sections of metal will separate from each other, causing the seat to lean. This can be fixed by prepping the metal, making sure the seat back is flat, and then welding the 2 pieces back together. When you're finished with the repair, spray the repaired areas of the frame with some black E-coat. If you'd like, deep clean the hinge area with some all-purpose cleaner and a brush. Wipe up the residue and use compressed air to flush out the remaining liquid and dirt. I'm also choosing to paint the upper area of the hinge that isn't hidden by the cover. Some black E-coat will do the trick. Just make sure you cover anything that you don't want paint on. Place the foam face down and install the seat frame. On the side of the foam with the plastic cover, mark the area that needs to be cut. Cut this area with a razor blade. Bring the strap on the back of the foam over the frame and engage the clip. The seat back upholstery is typically not size specific, but it never hurts to look over your foam and upholstery just to make sure. Roll the seat back upholstery inside out. In the upper area of the upholstery, cut the listing rod loop on both sides that intersects with the diagonal seam. The only listing rod that needs to be installed at this time is the center upper rod. Working from the ground, place a trash bag over the foam. Begin installing the upholstery over the foam, stretching and point it into place. Once you make it to the first listing rod, place it back on the workbench. Install 3 hog rings, starting in the center and working out. Install the center listing rod and continue rolling the upholstery over the foam. When you reach the second listing rod, feed it under the metal loop. This will only need to be done on the side with the metal loop. The other side of the rod gets positioned underneath the vertical listing rod. Now you can finish installing the upholstery over the foam. Back on the workbench, lift up the upholstery and install one of the large vertical listing rods. Similar to the seat bottom, there is a metal loop at the top of the foam that each listing rod has to slide through. Verify that the vertical listing rod passes over the center listing rod and then feel for it at the top of the upholstery. Push it down and guide it through the metal loop. Do the same for the other side. Hog ring the bottom of the listing rod to the foam on both sides. Install as many hog rings as you need. I did 1 at the corner of the listing rod and 2 across the front. For the next step, you will need assistance from someone else. At the bottom of the upholstery, bring the 2 sections together so you can engage the zipper. When doing this, make sure you get the zipper as straight as possible. Tuck the straps into the assembly. Now we can install the headrest. First, reference the factory upholstery and then hold the sleeve up to the new upholstery and mark the area. Make an incision at your marks that's wide enough for the sleeve. Go ahead and clean the sleeve. When installing the sleeve, it may help if you hold the tab with a thin pry tool to keep it from rolling up from the tight tolerances of the new foam. Guide the sleeve into place and install it into the track in the frame. Reinstall the headrest. Flip the seat over and locate the seat back release knob. Cut the upholstery and then begin enlarging the area. Remember to make small cuts first, test fit the bezel, and enlarge as needed. Install the bezel and tighten down the retaining screw. Reinstall the seat back release knob. By the way, both of these components are new. Lubricate the hinge mechanism with a sprayable multi-purpose grease. Lubricate the bushing and the shoulder on the pivot bolt. Position the seat back over the seat bottom and loosely start the 2 hinge bolts. Align the hole on the other side and install the pivot bolt. Go ahead and fully tighten this hardware. Reconnect the lumbar supply tube. Reinstall the hinge covers. These are new as well. Tighten the Phillips head screws. If you haven't already done so, clean up the slider assembly the best you can. Position the seat on the workbench so that you can install the slider assembly. Place the slider assembly onto the lower seat frame and loosely install 2 of the bolts. Move the slider front or back and install the other 2 bolts and fully tighten. Slide it back and then fully tighten the other bolts. Use some sprayable multi-purpose grease and lubricate the sliders. Work them back and forth to distribute the grease. Slide it all the way back and reinstall the return spring. Whenever you're finished, make sure the sliders are even. Go ahead and repeat all of these steps for the other front seat. Before installing the completed seats into the car, use this opportunity to vacuum the carpet and clean some of the interior areas that are difficult to access with the seats in the car. Go ahead and reinstall the seats and any other interior component that was removed. Now you can finally enjoy the fruits of your labor. All right, folks, new upholstery hands down can make a world of difference for the interior of your Fox Mustang. Kelly's car looks damn good with the new upholstery and black carpet, and I can't wait to see what the entire finished product looks like. Like I mentioned earlier, if you feel like this one is out of your range of expertise, please do not hesitate to drop the seats off at your local upholstery shop. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a comment. We're gonna sign off for the day, so as always, hope you found a lot of value in this video, and until we catch you in the next one, y'all know what to do. For all things Fox Body Mustang, keep it right here with the real enthusiasts, LMR.com.